He just needed a fake wife for his sister's wedding, until the CEO saw the woman he couldn't forget. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into the story. Our story begins with a man who needed a favor, but little did he know, it would change his life forever. This is the tale of a CEO who hired a woman to pretend to be his wife for a wedding. But things took an unexpected turn when he found himself unable to forget her. Let's go back to our main character, Emma. Emma Brooks had never imagined her life would take this turn. She was sitting at a small, cozy cafe in downtown New York, the clinking of silverware and soft chatter filling the air. She'd been invited to a blind date by her best friend, Jenny, but what she didn't know was that this date would change everything. She adjusted her second-hand dress nervously, the fabric feeling a little too tight around her waist, the heels too high for comfort. Her heart was racing, a combination of excitement and anxiety. Emma glanced at her phone once more, checking the time. Her date, Kevin, was running late, but that was nothing new. Jenny had warned her that Kevin wasn't the best at being punctual. Emma sighed, smoothing out the wrinkles in her dress and wiping her sweaty palms on her lap. She wasn't the kind of girl who usually went on blind dates. In fact, this was a rare attempt to get out of her comfort zone. She had just finished another long shift at the diner where she worked, barely scraping by. Her rent was due in a few days, and she still didn't know how she was going to make it. She had dreams, of course, big ones. She wanted to open an art studio, but that felt so far away. She looked around the cafe, admiring the art on the walls, feeling a pang of longing. What would it be like to live in a world where people didn't have to worry about money? Emma snapped back to reality when she spotted a man sitting alone at a table in the back corner, his dark hair neatly combed, wearing a tailored suit. He was engrossed in his phone, looking like someone who had it all together. That must be him, she thought. Kevin. Taking a deep breath, she stood up, smoothing out her dress once more, and walking toward the man. "Hi, you must be Kevin." "I'm Emma," she said, forcing a smile onto her face. The man looked up, startled. His blue eyes met hers, his expression one of confusion. He blinked a couple of times, clearly trying to process what had just happened. Hi Emma," he said, still unsure. Emma, misreading his reaction as shyness, took the opportunity to sit down across from him. "Oh, I know this is awkward. Blind dates are weird, right?" She chuckled nervously. "Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, so don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us." The man blinked again, his lips parting as if he wanted to say something but then hesitating. Emma fidgeted with her water glass, sensing the silence that had settled between them. "I'm a waitress," she continued, trying to fill the silence. "Not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills. Well, most of them anyway." She let out a small laugh, trying to break the tension. The man, still looking uncertain, gave a small smile. "Tech," he said softly, his voice quiet but warm. "I work in tech." Emma nodded, pretending to understand. "Tech, that's cool. Like coding and apps and stuff?" He smiled faintly, his lips curving slightly, though it seemed more like a reflex than anything genuine. "Something like that." Emma felt the conversation start to flow, but it was a little too one-sided. She felt more comfortable talking than listening. Maybe it was the nerves or the fact that she'd been working non-stop for weeks, but she was eager to make this date go well. As she continued talking, sharing anecdotes about her shifts at the diner and her dream of opening an art studio, she saw the man's demeanor shift. He didn't look as stiff anymore. There was something about him, though, something in his eyes that told her he wasn't just an ordinary man. But she pushed the thought aside, choosing to focus on the present. Her phone buzzed, interrupting the moment. It was a message from Jenny. Asterisk. "Hey Emma, where are you?" "I'm at table 7, looking forward to meeting you, Kevin." Asterisk. Emma froze, staring at the message for a moment, and then slowly looked up at the man across from her. Her face turned crimson. "You're not Kevin," Are you? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man's smile faltered, guilt flickering in his eyes. No, I'm not. Emma's stomach dropped. She stood up quickly, grabbing her coat and heading toward the door without a second thought. She couldn't believe it. She had just spent the last few minutes chatting with a complete stranger, convinced he was her blind date. The man stood as well, looking at her with a mix of regret and curiosity. Emma? It's okay, he started, but she was already out the door, her face flushed with embarrassment. Liam Parker watched her go, a strange feeling stirring in his chest. Why did the thought of never seeing her again bother him so much? It had been 2 weeks since Emma Brooks had run out of that cafe, humiliated, convinced that she would never see the man she mistook for her blind date again. Life quickly went back to its usual rhythm. She worked long hours at the diner, scraping by as best as she could, trying not to think about her embarrassing mistake. Rent was still overdue. Her dreams of opening an art studio seemed more distant than ever, and the world felt as if it was closing in on her. But then, one day, everything changed. Emma was wiping down the counter at the diner when the door chimed. She barely looked up, expecting another customer. But then her eyes met a pair of familiar blue ones. It was him, Liam Parker. The man she had mistaken for Kevin, the one she had fled from 2 weeks ago. He stood in the doorway, looking every bit as polished and confident as he had at the cafe, his tailored suit perfectly fitting his broad shoulders. Emma froze for a moment, her heart racing. She hadn't expected this, and she certainly hadn't expected him to find her here. He looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and something else, something that made Emma's stomach tighten. "Hi," he said. His voice calm, but with a trace of a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Emma, right?" She nodded, her cheeks flushing with the memory of their last encounter. I didn't expect to see you here," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I know," Liam replied, his smile widening. "I didn't expect to be here either, but I was hoping to speak with you." Emma blinked, taken aback. "Speak with me?" "Yeah," he said, stepping closer to the counter. "I know this might be weird, but I've been thinking about you since that day at the cafe." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to say that. "Look, I'm really sorry about that. I didn't mean to," she began, but Liam waved his hand dismissively. "It's not about that," he said, his tone reassuring. "I actually wanted to apologize for not correcting you sooner. I should have been upfront with you, but I was curious." Emma's brow furrowed. "Curious?" "Yeah," he said, his gaze softening. "You see, I'm not just some tech guy. I'm Liam Parker, CEO of Parker Enterprises." Emma's eyes widened. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. The man she had mistaken for her blind date was not just anyone. He was a millionaire, a CEO, someone far out of her league. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Liam smiled at her stunned silence. "I know, this must come as a shock, but I wanted to explain. You see, I was intrigued by you, by your honesty, your straightforwardness. It was refreshing." Emma could hardly believe what she was hearing. She had just been herself awkward, nervous, and completely unaware of who he really was. And yet, here he was, standing before her, offering an apology, and somehow making her feel like she mattered. I don't know what to say," she said, still trying to process everything. "You don't have to say anything," Liam said quickly. "But I'd like to offer you something. A job, actually. It's a position with one of my companies. Nothing too crazy. Just an opportunity to get your foot in the door." Emma stared at him, unsure if she was hearing him right. "A job?" she repeated. Liam nodded. "Yeah, you've got something that I think my company could use. Plus, I've been wanting to do something more meaningful, and I believe you could help with that." Emma felt a whirlwind of emotions: confusion, surprise, excitement. She was just a waitress, barely scraping by, and here was this millionaire CEO offering her a job. It didn't make sense. "Why me?" she asked, her voice quiet. Liam leaned forward slightly, his expression earnest. "Because I see something in you, Emma. Something that's hard to find in the world I live in. I think you deserve a chance to do something bigger, something that could change your life." Emma's mind was racing. She had dreamed of opportunities like this, dreamed of having a shot at something better. But was it really possible? Could she trust him? Could she trust herself? Before she could say anything, Liam added, "Take your time to think about it. I'll be in touch." With that, he turned and walked out of the diner, leaving Emma standing there, still processing the whirlwind of emotions that had just hit her. For the rest of the day, Emma couldn't get Liam's offer out of her mind. She kept replaying their conversation in her head, wondering if she had somehow imagined the whole thing. But as the night wore on, something inside her stirred. Maybe this was the opportunity she had been waiting for. Maybe this was her chance to change everything. But then again, what if it was all just a mistake? It had been a few days since Liam Parker had left the diner, and Emma couldn't stop thinking about the job offer. She had barely slept the night after their encounter. The idea of working for a CEO like him, feeling both exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. Was it a mistake? Was she really qualified for something like that? But then, every time she tried to convince herself it was too much, she couldn't ignore the part of her that felt like this was the opportunity she had been waiting for her entire life. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, this was all too good to be true. The offer seemed like a dream, a chance to escape her exhausting life as a waitress. But it was hard for her to trust that someone like Liam would actually want to help her, someone like her. Her doubts were interrupted by a knock on her door. Emma opened it to find a neatly dressed man standing there, holding a crisp white envelope. "Emma Brooks?" he asked, his voice polite but firm. "Yes?" Emma replied, raising an eyebrow. "This is for you," the man said, handing her the envelope. "It's from Mr. Liam Parker." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She took the envelope and, with a quick thanks, closed the door behind her. She opened it slowly, her hands trembling slightly, and inside was a letter on high-quality paper. She unfolded it carefully and began to read. "Dear Emma, I hope this letter finds you well. I wanted to follow up on our conversation. After some consideration, I believe you would be an excellent fit for the position with Parker Enterprises. Your dedication, your passion for art, and your sincerity have impressed me, and I believe you have what it takes to make a difference. Please meet me at our headquarters tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. to discuss the details. I look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, Liam Parker." Emma stood frozen for a moment, the letter still in her hands. Her mind was racing. This wasn't just some random offer. This was real. He really wanted her to join his company. This was her chance to change her life. She couldn't believe it. She had to think. The next morning, Emma arrived at Parker Enterprises, a towering building that seemed to reach the clouds. She felt small as she entered the lobby, looking up at the grand marble floors and high ceilings. The place was nothing like her small apartment or the diner she worked at. It was immaculate, cold, and intimidating. She was escorted to an elevator and taken to the top floor, where Liam's office awaited. As the doors opened, she stepped out into a modern, sleek office space that exuded wealth and success. Liam was standing by the large windows, looking out at the city skyline. He turned as she entered, giving her a warm smile. "Emma, welcome. I'm glad you could make it," he said, his voice calm and inviting. "Please, have a seat." Emma hesitated for a moment, then sat down across from him. Her nerves were getting the best of her, and she couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. She had dreamed of a life like this, but now that it was here, she wasn't sure she was ready. "I appreciate this," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "But I just have to ask, why me? Why would you want someone like me?" Liam leaned forward, his expression serious. "Emma, you might think that this world is too far removed from where you've come from, but that's exactly why I want you here. You're real. You're grounded. You have a passion for life, something that's hard to find in the circles I move in." He paused, his gaze softening. "You have a genuine heart, and that's what I need in my company. Someone who can bring a fresh perspective. Someone who sees beyond the business and cares about people." Emma felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She had spent so much of her life doubting her worth. But here was a man who was seeing something in her she had never recognized in herself. I don't know what to say," she whispered, the weight of the moment settling in. Liam smiled gently. "You don't have to say anything yet, but I want you to know you're not here by mistake. I believe in you, Emma, and I think you can do great things." Emma took a deep breath. the tension in her chest starting to ease. For the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could do something big. She didn't know where this journey would take her, but for the first time in a long while, she wasn't afraid. She was ready. The days that followed Emma's meeting with Liam were a whirlwind. She found herself adjusting to a new routine, one that was far different from the life she had known. Instead of serving tables at a diner, she was now walking through the sleek halls of Parker Enterprises, attending meetings, and collaborating with some of the brightest minds in the business. But even though she was technically living a dream, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that she didn't quite belong. Every time she entered Liam's office or attended a board meeting, she felt like an imposter. She didn't come from the world of CEOs and billionaires. She came from a world where every dollar was hard-earned, where dreams were just that, dreams. The weight of her past still hung over her, and sometimes, when the office grew quiet, she found herself doubting whether she could really make a difference. Liam, on the other hand, seemed unfazed. He had been nothing but supportive, always encouraging her, and pushing her to embrace her potential. But the more Emma worked alongside him, the more she realized something else. She was beginning to feel something for him, a connection she hadn't expected. The way he looked at her with such focus and belief, how he cared about the little details of her life, and how he made her feel seen in a world that had always seemed so big and cold. It wasn't just the job anymore. She was drawn to him, and for the first time, she wondered if he might feel the same way. But she quickly pushed those thoughts aside. This was business, after all. She wasn't here to get involved in a romantic relationship with her boss. Still, it was hard to ignore the way her heart raced when she saw him. One evening, after a long day of work, Liam invited her to join him for a charity gala. "It's important for the company," he had said, "but it's also a chance to relax and enjoy the evening." Emma had agreed, not wanting to turn down the opportunity. She had always dreamed of attending an event like this, dressed up, surrounded by people who lived in a completely different world from hers. The night of the gala arrived, and Emma found herself standing in front of her mirror, carefully adjusting her dress. The soft blue fabric hugged her curves, and her hair, which she usually kept tied back in a simple ponytail, was now styled in soft waves. She barely recognized herself. She had never worn something so elegant, and as she applied a touch of makeup, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The gala was being held at a grand hotel, and when Emma arrived, the sight was everything she had imagined and more. The venue was decorated with sparkling chandeliers, and the guests were dressed in their finest attire. Emma felt small as she entered the ballroom, her heels clicking against the polished floor. She spotted Liam across the room, standing tall and confident in his tuxedo, greeting guests with his usual charm. When their eyes met, Liam's face lit up with recognition, and he quickly made his way over to her. "Emma," he said, his voice warm. "You look stunning." She blushed, unsure of how to respond. "Thank you," she said softly. "This is all a bit overwhelming." Liam smiled. "It can be, but tonight is about enjoying ourselves. Come, let me introduce you to some people." They spent the evening mingling with business partners, charity donors, and other guests. Despite the lavish surroundings, Emma couldn't help but feel out of place. She didn't know how to talk about stocks or the latest business trends. She was just a girl from a small town, trying to make it in a world that felt so far removed from her own. But as the night wore on, Liam stayed by her side, making sure she was comfortable, introducing her to people in a way that made her feel like she belonged. At one point, they stepped onto the balcony for some fresh air, and Emma leaned against the railing, looking out at the city skyline. The lights below twinkled like stars, and for a moment, she felt as though everything was possible. "You seem different tonight," Liam said, standing next to her. "More confident, more at ease." Emma glanced at him, unsure of how to respond. "I think it's just because I'm with you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The words slipped out before she could stop them, and she immediately regretted it. She quickly turned to look at him, her face turning red. "I didn't mean to—" Liam's hand gently rested on her arm, his touch warm and reassuring. "It's okay," he said quietly, his gaze steady. "I know what you mean." They stood there for a moment, the quiet hum of the city in the background. There was an unspoken understanding between them now, something that went beyond the professional relationship they had started with. Emma didn't know what to make of it, but she couldn't deny that she felt drawn to him more than ever. The night continued, but something had shifted. The world around them seemed to fade away, and in that moment, Emma realized that perhaps there was more to this journey than just a job. Maybe, just maybe, there was something more between her and Liam. But as the evening came to a close, Emma pushed the thought aside. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful about it. The days after the gala were a blur for Emma. The moment they shared on the balcony kept playing over and over in her mind. She couldn't help but wonder if Liam had meant what he said, if there was something more between them than just business. Yet, as the work week went on, she pushed those thoughts aside, reminding herself that she was here to focus on her career, not personal distractions. Liam, however, seemed to act differently around her. There was a subtle change in the way he looked at her, a deeper warmth in his smile when their eyes met across the office, a kind of unspoken understanding that left Emma feeling both uneasy and excited. She had grown accustomed to their professional relationship, but now there was something more. The constant tension between them lingered, and Emma tried her best to ignore it. She was determined to keep things professional, despite the growing attraction she felt, but it wasn't easy. One Thursday afternoon, Liam called her into his office. "Emma," he said, his voice more serious than usual, "I need you to take care of something for me. It's an important project, and I believe you're the right person for it." Emma was both honored and nervous. She had no idea what kind of project it could be, but the fact that Liam trusted her with something so important meant a lot. She walked into his office and took a seat across from his desk, her heart pounding in her chest. Liam stood by the window, looking out at the city as if gathering his thoughts. After a moment, he turned to her, his eyes intense. "This project involves a new business venture, one that could change the direction of the company," he explained. "I need you to oversee the creative side of it, designs, marketing strategies, everything. I know you have a background in art, and I want you to bring that vision to life." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had always dreamed of working on a project like this, and here was Liam, offering her the opportunity of a lifetime. I don't know what to say," she stammered, feeling a rush of excitement. "This is amazing." "I knew you'd be perfect for it," Liam said, his gaze softening. "You've got the creativity and the drive. You're going to make this project a success." Emma felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment she could finally prove herself. But as the excitement settled, so did the pressure. This was her chance to show Liam and everyone else that she belonged in this world, that she could succeed. But it also meant more responsibility, more expectations, and more ways to fail. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Emma threw herself into the project, working late into the night, pouring all her energy and passion into the designs, brainstorming with the team, and developing ideas she never thought she had. Liam's support was unwavering, but the more time they spent together, the more Emma felt the pull between them growing stronger. It wasn't just about business anymore. It was about something deeper. There were moments, small moments, when their hands brushed or when their eyes lingered just a little too long. Each time, Emma's heart would race, and for a split second, she'd forget all the doubts that had been holding her back. She started questioning everything. Was she imagining this connection? Was Liam feeling it too? Or was it all just a figment of her overactive imagination? Emma tried to focus on the work, but it was becoming harder to ignore the attraction she felt. She couldn't help herself. She was falling for him, and she didn't know what to do about it. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Liam invited her to dinner. "It's been a hectic few weeks," he said. "I thought we could take a break and grab some dinner. Just the two of us, no business." Emma hesitated, the idea of spending time alone with him making her both nervous and excited. But she agreed, not wanting to turn down the invitation. They went to a quiet restaurant, one that wasn't as flashy as the ones they usually frequented, and as they sat down, Emma felt an overwhelming sense of calm. This wasn't about business anymore. It was just them, two people who had been working side by side for so long, now sitting down to share a meal together. As the evening went on, the conversation flowed easily, just like it had at the gala. They talked about everything: life, dreams, regrets, the things that made them who they were. Emma felt herself opening up in a way she hadn't in a long time. And Liam, for his part, seemed to do the same. He wasn't the stoic CEO she had first met. He was a man, a person with hopes, fears, and vulnerabilities. By the end of the night, Emma realized something. She wasn't just falling for Liam the CEO. She was falling for Liam the man, the one who cared about more than just business. As they walked out of the restaurant, Liam turned to her, his hand brushing against hers. "Emma," he said quietly, "I've been thinking a lot about you lately, more than I should." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had been waiting for him to say something, anything that would confirm what she had been feeling all along. But now, with the words hanging in the air between them, she wasn't sure what to do. Should she admit that she felt the same way? Or should she keep quiet, keep everything professional, and not risk ruining the one thing that had given her purpose? The air between Emma and Liam was thick with unspoken words. His confession echoed in her mind, long after they had parted ways at the restaurant. She kept replaying his words over and over. Asterisk. "I've been thinking a lot about you lately. More than I should." Asterisk. Emma had never expected this. The man she had been trying so hard to keep a professional distance from, the CEO who had opened doors for her, was now expressing something deeper, something personal. Her heart raced as she thought about how she should respond. Should she admit that she, too, had been feeling something for him? Or was it better to keep things professional, as they had always been? The next day, Emma found herself back at the office, trying to focus on her tasks. The project she had been working on was gaining momentum, and it required her full attention. Yet, every time she caught sight of Liam, every time their eyes met across the room, her heart skipped a beat. She couldn't deny the chemistry between them, but she also knew that things were complicated. Liam was her boss, and their professional relationship was important. She couldn't risk losing everything she had worked so hard for. And yet, the more she tried to ignore the feelings growing inside her, the more they seemed to take root. She found herself looking forward to the moments when they would be alone, the small moments when he would show her his more vulnerable side. It wasn't just about attraction anymore. It was about something real, something that went beyond the boardroom and business meetings. After a particularly long and exhausting week, Liam called her into his office. "Emma," he said, his tone serious but soft. "I need to talk to you about something." Her stomach tightened. Had she done something wrong? Was he going to reprimand her for something? But when she walked in and saw the look on his face, she knew it was something else. Liam stood up as she entered, his usual confident demeanor replaced by something more uncertain. "I've been thinking about us," he began, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know what it is, but I can't keep pretending that nothing is happening between us." "You're different, Emma. I've been fighting it, trying to keep things professional, but the more I try to ignore it, the stronger it gets. I can't stop thinking about you, and I don't want to hide that anymore." Emma stood frozen, unsure of what to say. Her breath caught in her throat as she looked at him. This wasn't the Liam she had come to know, the calm, collected CEO. This was the man she had begun to care for, the one who was finally admitting the truth. For a moment, she couldn't speak. Her mind was a whirl of thoughts, emotions, and uncertainty. She had been trying so hard to maintain control over everything, but now, in the face of his honesty, all her walls began to crumble. She finally managed to find her voice. I don't know what to say," she said, her voice trembling. "I've been feeling the same way. I've been trying to ignore it, trying to keep things professional, but I can't. I care about you, Liam. And it scares me because this is complicated." Liam stepped closer to her, his eyes soft but intense. "I know," he said quietly. "I know it's complicated, but I can't keep pretending. I want more, Emma. I want to see where this goes, no matter how difficult it might be." Emma looked at him, feeling a flood of emotions wash over her. She had always been so careful, so guarded, but now, standing in front of Liam, she realized that she couldn't keep living in fear of what might happen. She couldn't keep denying the connection they shared. "I want that too," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to see where this goes." Liam smiled, his eyes lighting up with a mix of relief and joy. He reached for her hand, and Emma felt a jolt of electricity shoot through her at his touch. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she was making the right choice. The choice to let herself be vulnerable, to embrace the unknown. "I'm glad," Liam said, his voice low. "We'll take it one step at a time, but whatever happens, I'm not going to hide how I feel anymore." Emma nodded, a sense of calm settling over her. It wasn't going to be easy, and there would be challenges ahead, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She was ready to see where this journey would take her, with Liam by her side. They both knew that things wouldn't always be perfect, but they were willing to try, to be honest with each other, and to see what kind of future they could build together, and that was all that mattered. The weeks that followed, Emma and Liam's confession were a whirlwind. They carefully navigated their relationship, balancing the excitement of their newfound connection with the responsibilities of their professional lives. Every day, they found themselves spending more time together, and the chemistry between them grew stronger. At first, they were cautious, not wanting to cross any boundaries or let their personal lives interfere with work, but it was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore the feelings they had for each other. One afternoon, Liam pulled Emma aside after a meeting. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice low, almost hesitant. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She knew something serious was coming. "Of course," she said, following him to his office. Once they were alone, Liam shut the door and turned to her. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he began. "About where this is going. And I need to be honest with you." Emma felt a knot form in her stomach. She had no idea what he was going to say, but she knew that whatever it was important. "What is it?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. Liam paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts before speaking again. "I care about you, Emma," he said, his eyes locking onto hers. "And I know this is complicated having a relationship at work, especially with someone in my position. But I want to be with you. I want us to figure this out, no matter what the consequences are." Emma took a deep breath, feeling a mix of emotions, relief, excitement, but also fear. She had always been so cautious, so afraid of getting hurt. And now, here was Liam, opening his heart to her, asking for something more. She wanted to say yes, wanted to take the leap with him, but doubts lingered in the back of her mind. "But what about work?" she asked, her voice shaky. "What if this affects everything we've worked for?" Liam walked closer to her, his expression unwavering. "I've thought about that," he said softly. "And I think we can make this work. If we're careful, if we communicate openly, we can separate our personal lives from our work lives. But I want to try, Emma. I don't want to walk away from this." Emma's heart swelled. She had been so afraid of the unknown, so afraid that their relationship would put everything on the line. But hearing Liam's words, seeing the sincerity in his eyes, gave her the courage she needed. "I want to try too," she said, her voice firm now, no longer uncertain. "I'm scared, but I want to see where this goes." Liam smiled, his face lighting up with relief. He reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "We'll take it one step at a time," he said, "and we'll face whatever challenges come our way, together." As the days passed, Emma and Liam slowly adjusted to their new dynamic. They were careful at work, keeping their personal relationship private, but every stolen moment, every glance shared across the room, made their connection grow stronger. Emma's feelings for Liam deepened with each passing day. He wasn't just her boss anymore. He was the man who saw her, who believed in her, who made her feel like she could be more than she had ever imagined. They spent time together outside of work, going to quiet dinners, taking walks in the park, and sharing their hopes and dreams. Emma found herself falling for him even more, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she had found someone who truly understood her. But despite their closeness, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She had always prided herself on being independent, on standing on her own 2 feet. But with Liam, she was beginning to rely on him more than she had intended. She didn't want to lose herself in the relationship, didn't want to lose the drive and ambition that had brought her to where she was today. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of Liam's penthouse, Emma couldn't hold her thoughts in any longer. "Liam," she began, her voice quiet, "I've been thinking. I don't want to lose sight of who I am. I don't want to become dependent on you." Liam turned to her, his expression soft but understanding. "Emma," he said gently, I never want you to feel like you're losing yourself. You're amazing, just the way you are. I want to support you, but I also want you to keep chasing your dreams, to keep being the strong, independent woman you've always been. I'm here for you, but I'm not here to take away your independence. You're not just a part of my life, Emma. You're someone I admire, someone I respect. Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her as Liam spoke. He understood her, more than she realized. And in that moment, she knew that they could make this work. They weren't perfect, but they had something real, something worth fighting for. As the city lights flickered below them, Emma looked at Liam, a sense of peace settling over her. They would face whatever came their way, together. And for the first time in a long time, Emma was no longer afraid. As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam's relationship grew stronger, their bond deepening with each shared moment. They had learned to balance their personal and professional lives, though it wasn't always easy. They worked hard to keep their romance discreet at the office, aware of the challenges it could bring to their careers. Still, the moments they shared outside of work, quiet dinners, walks in the park, and late-night conversations made the world feel smaller, more manageable. For the first time, Emma felt like she wasn't just part of Liam's world, but she had carved out a space in it, one that was uniquely her own. Everything seemed to be falling into place, but just as things were settling down, a storm began to brew. One evening, after a particularly long day, Liam came to Emma with news that made her heart race in fear. He had been summoned to an urgent meeting with the board of directors, one that could potentially affect the future of Parker Enterprises. "Emma," Liam said, his voice tinged with concern, "the board wants to make some significant changes. They're not happy with some of the direction the company has been taking lately, and they're questioning my leadership. I'm going to have to make some difficult decisions, and I'm not sure what it means for us." Emma felt a chill run through her. She had always known the pressures Liam faced as CEO, but hearing him speak like this, uncertain about the future, made her realize just how much was at stake. "What are you going to do?" she asked, her voice soft. Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know yet. I've been thinking about it non-stop. I need to make the right decision for the company, but also for us, for our future. I want to be with you, Emma, but this is bigger than just us." Emma nodded, her heart heavy with the weight of the situation. She understood that Liam had responsibilities far beyond what she could see, but the thought of losing him, of seeing him struggle with the burden of his role, was more than she could bear. "You'll figure it out," she said, trying to reassure him. "You always do. You're smart, and you're strong. Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Liam looked at her, his expression softening. "I don't know what I'd do without you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You've been my rock through all of this, but I can't promise anything. I need to focus on the company right now, and that means making some tough choices." Emma's heart sank. She knew what he was saying. This could be the end of their relationship, the end of everything they had built together. But as she looked at him, she realized something. No matter what happened with the company, no matter what choices he had to make, she was willing to fight for them, for the future they could have. "I understand," she said softly, "but I'm here for you no matter what. We'll figure this out together. You don't have to face this alone." Liam smiled, though there was sadness in his eyes. "Thank you, Emma. You don't know how much that means to me." They stood in silence for a few moments, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Then, Liam reached for her hand, his grip firm, and led her to the balcony. The city lights shimmered below them, the hustle and bustle of the world fading away as they stood together, united in their uncertainty. "I don't want to lose you," Liam said quietly. "I don't want this company to tear us apart." Emma looked up at him, her heart full of emotion. "We're stronger than that," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "No matter what happens with your career, no matter what decisions the board makes, we'll make it through. Because I believe in us. I believe in what we have." Liam's eyes softened, and for the first time in days, he seemed at peace. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with gratitude. "I don't deserve you, but I'm so glad I found you." Emma smiled, her heart swelling with love for him. "You don't have to deserve anything," she said gently. "You just have to be here, with me." As they stood there, holding hands, the uncertainty of the future felt a little less daunting. They knew there would be challenges ahead, but together, they were ready to face whatever came their way. With each other, they could handle anything. And, for the first time in a long while, Emma felt certain about one thing no matter what the future held. Their love was something worth fighting for. The weeks that followed were a test of resilience for both Emma and Liam. The pressure from the board weighed heavily on Liam, and he spent long hours working through strategies to save his company. Yet, despite the turmoil at work, the strength of their connection remained unwavering. Emma had promised to be there for him, and she kept that promise. She supported him when things seemed impossible, offering him a quiet moment of peace, a reminder that the love they shared was worth fighting for. As Liam navigated the challenges of the boardroom, Emma thrived in her role. She found herself more confident, more inspired than ever before, and the creative project she had been working on for the company began to take shape. It was her chance to prove herself, not just to Liam, but to the entire company. She poured her heart and soul into the work, and it showed. The project was met with praise, and Emma began to feel like she had finally found her place, not only at Parker Enterprises, but also in Liam's world. However, despite their professional success, there was still a shadow that hung over them, the looming decision from the board. Would Liam be able to keep his position as CEO? Would everything they had built together be torn apart by corporate politics? It wasn't until one evening, after a particularly tense meeting with the board, that Liam received the answer. Emma was waiting for him at his apartment when he arrived, his face unreadable as he stepped inside. He took a deep breath before turning to her. "It's over," he said quietly. "I've been ousted. The board decided to move in a different direction. They're replacing me as CEO." Emma felt her heart drop. She had feared this moment, but hearing it aloud made it feel all the more real. She quickly crossed the room and took his hands in hers. "Liam," she said, her voice soft but steady, "I know this is devastating, but you are not defined by your position. You're more than just a CEO. You're the man I love, and that's what matters most." Liam's eyes softened as he looked at her. "I don't know what I'm going to do now," he confessed, his voice breaking. "I've worked my whole life for this, and now it's all gone. I don't know how to move forward." Emma held him close, wrapping her arms around him. "We'll move forward together," she whispered. "You don't have to figure it out alone. I'm here, and I always will be." Over the next few days, Liam took some time to reflect on his next steps. He realized that losing the CEO position didn't mean losing his purpose. He still had so much to offer, and the future was wide open. With Emma by his side, he felt ready to take on whatever came next. The experience changed both of them. Liam learned to let go of the need to control everything, and Emma found a strength within herself she hadn't known existed. Together, they made a promise to one another. No matter what the future held, they would always have each other. A month later, Liam surprised Emma with a simple dinner at her favorite restaurant. They talked, laughed, and enjoyed each other's company like they always had. But this time, there was something different in the air, an unspoken understanding that they were starting a new chapter, one filled with possibilities. As the evening came to a close, Liam reached across the table, taking Emma's hand in his. "I don't have all the answers yet," he said with a smile, "but I know one thing for sure: I want to build something new. Something with you." Emma smiled, her heart swelling with love. "I'm with you, no matter what." They stood up together, stepping out into the night, their future uncertain, but their hearts filled with hope. And for the first time in a long time, they felt ready to face whatever came their way, as a team. It wasn't about a title or a position anymore. It was about the life they were building together, hand in hand, step by step. The journey ahead was still unknown, but they knew one thing for certain: they would take it on together, with love, trust, and the promise of a future they would create together. In this heartfelt tale of love, ambition, and self-discovery, we follow the journey of Emma, a woman who finds herself entangled in a complicated relationship with a successful CEO, Liam Parker. As they navigate the challenges of balancing work and romance, Emma must come to terms with her own dreams and insecurities, while Liam faces the pressure of corporate politics and his unexpected ousting from his position as CEO. Through their struggles and triumphs, they learn that love is about more than just success and status. It's about finding support in each other during the toughest moments. This is one of the most captivating millionaire stories that proves that true love isn't just about wealth and power, but the strength of connection and shared goals. As their relationship deepens, Emma and Liam embark on a journey that tests their commitment, showing that even when faced with uncertainty and loss, love can still conquer. Watch as they redefine success and love, creating a life together despite the challenges that life throws their way. These millionaire stories aren't just about the riches, they're about the people who build lasting connections and create their own happiness. Emma and Liam's story is the perfect example of how true wealth lies in the relationships we cherish, the dreams we pursue, and the love we choose to hold on to, making this one of the most memorable millionaire stories ever told.